Hopefully we'll be starting shortly. They're seating a few people down in the fire station, and as soon as everybody's signed in, we should be going momentarily. So thank you for your patience.
Start moving out. 30 people in here, other than the folks sitting. That's it. Out. You get to come in and speak. Move out to the firehouse.
Now we have to move. Another half hour. Let's go.
I'm not.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again very much for your patience and understanding. We are called to order here at 7:29 p.m. on Thursday, November 5th, 2019. This is special town board meeting number 1 of the town of Waukesha. I was going to say, would you all stand? Some of you already are, but those who aren't, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Chairman Fisher,
Here.
Supervisor Durr,
Here.
Supervisor Stigler,
Here.
Supervisor Rackley,
Here.
Supervisor German.
Here.
Item 4, open meeting law compliance check. The agenda was posted on the 3 town public notice boards, the town website, and distributed to all news media, requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on November 4th, 2019. Administrator Nicholas, is that an accurate statement?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Item 5 on the agenda is citizens' comments. Unless there's any objection from somebody on the board in order to move the meeting along, I'd like to move ahead with items 6 and 7 first. And let me just even back up a bit to explain. There's actually going to be a series of 4 meetings tonight. They're separate and distinct. They're somewhat related. This first meeting is a special town board meeting number 1. That will be followed by a public hearing on the budget. That will be followed by a town meeting. And then finally, the 4th meeting will be special town board meeting number 2. There will be opportunity for citizens, residents to speak during each of the first 3 meetings, special town board meeting number 1, the public hearing, and during the town meeting. So you'll have opportunity to do that. I believe, and Administrator Nicholas, you might explain, you have sign-in slips, do you, for people who wish to speak?
That's correct. At the back, when you signed in this evening, you were able to grab a gray slip before you speak or after you speak at the podium, then bring me your slip so I can get your name properly spelt in the minutes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll proceed then with the item which is entitled Discussion and Possible Action on Removing the Following Item
Mr.
from the
Chairman,
agenda. Yes?
I would object, and I would prefer that we have citizen comments before and
Okay.
follow the agenda. The reason being that I think a lot of these people may have some comments in regards to items number 6 and 7.
Okay,
And
that's
I see
fine.
that the public hearing part of it certainly is where they can speak, but you've got public comments under the town meeting pretty much after the meeting is over. And I don't think a lot of these people want to wait until then.
That's fine. If that's your pleasure, that's your prerogative, then we will start with citizen comments. Anyone who would like to speak, please come forward with a slip. When you come to the microphone, give us your name and address, get close to the microphone so everyone can hear what you have to say.
Betty has some
Oh,
extra slips.
you've got slips already? All right.
These are not signed, people down in the firehouse. They want to know if they can see the speakers
Yes.
in the firehouse, because all they can see now is the audience.
Well, they'll see right now, they can see us. And as soon as,
Oh, I see
as
what
soon
they can see.
as,
Okay.
people start
This
speaking
is what
at
they
the
want.
podium. People can see us right now because the board is speaking. As soon as we get to citizen comments and a person comes to the mic, we will change the camera so then the people in the firehouse and the people watching from home can see who's speaking at the monitor. Just, because they all have to come, ask anybody here. Does anybody want to speak during citizen comment that does not have a gray slip? Raise your hand, and Betty will come and. The citizen comments in special town board meeting number 1 concerning the action on removing the item from the agenda. Yes. Okay.
All right, come.
Do you not have an agenda? Okay, hold on. Can we pause for 5 minutes?
Can we, the administrator and clerk Nicholas is going to run some extra copies of special town board meeting number 1 agenda for anyone who does not have a copy of that. So we'll hang on one more minute.
I have something to say. Do you want me to wait until the administrator comes back? Okay.
Okay, we're going to move along while they're finishing distributing those. So first public speaker, please proceed.
So before we start, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Please.
so the confusion in the room seems to be what the purpose of special board meeting number 1 is. The confusion in the room seems to be is that better? Seems to be over what specifically special board meeting number 1 is all about. So as you receive the agenda, essentially special board meeting number 1 is about items number 6 and number 7. And specifically, they are discussion and possible action for removing the following item from the agenda for the town board meeting, which is scheduled for November 5th, 2019, discussion and action on the purchase of 2 public properties. And number 7, discussion and possible action to authorize the town chairman to submit counteroffers in a form as approved by the town attorney, granting the town of Waukesha until March 2nd, 2020, the ability to terminate the contract. So those are the 2 items that special board meeting number 1 surrounds. So if you would like to speak about those 2 items, that's what this citizens' comments period is all about.
Thank you. Point well taken. All right, if you'd like to speak to those issues, please proceed.
Okay, name and address, I'm assuming.
Please.
Chris Lufter, W262 South 3186 Ridge Road. I'm just going to try and start with some comments here. The gentleman next to me said, I need to remind you that part of the town is maintaining a low and affordable tax rate. That's part of the town's mission statement. I want to take 2 seconds to thank whoever sent out the postcard, who's ever been trying to educate the community on this issue. It's a big one. As far as moving this, removing it from the agenda tonight, I think that's very unfair. As you can tell, we have a room full of people here, a room full of people in the town, in the fire station. Last count I had texted up to me, there's about 200 back there. It's wrong to do that. I've seen this done at other government levels where the vote is delayed in order to turn people off. Well, I can tell you, I can pick it up in the room, people are angry. I don't support it. Now on to my comments. I've heard things, I've seen it in the paper where the paper has said this is being done to help our incorporation efforts. Just so everybody in the 2 rooms here are very clear. The building or buying of this land will in no way impact the incorporation efforts that this board is going through. As far as I'm concerned, if we're going to delay the vote on this due to the borings not being done or access to 164 given, I still don't support it on the concept, period. Why would we go to a smaller piece of land when we have a big enough piece of property here to do anything we want to do with? Why would we duplicate those expenses? Yeah, and then I do have a copy of the state law here regarding the incorporation. And back to the original point, we do not need to purchase this land for incorporation. There's 8 points we have to meet. We already meet 7. The last one that we have to meet is forming a TIF, and you're working on that. And I guess the best case scenario, as far as I'm concerned on this, is either a misunderstanding of the process or somebody is point blank lying to the citizens of the town of Waukesha. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Sandy Hom, West 230, South 3827, Milky Way Road, town of Waukesha. Most of what she said. But also, I'll stick to what's on the agenda for this meeting. I oppose moving the item 5 off of the town meeting. Let's call it town meeting, not town board meeting, because there's a distinction. But anyway, I oppose that. Everybody came here because of that reason. And to say no within the first, well, it would have been the first few minutes if things had been organized. But in any case, and the second item, I didn't bring it up with me because I gave my agenda to someone else. But if you read it, it doesn't make it clear at all what you're giving the chairman the authority to do. I mean, if you look at it, it doesn't say what piece of property you're giving him the right to deal on or anything else like that. It's really, really vague. And I think it should be restated if you're going to move on it at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Come on up.
You want my name and address, correct?
Please.
Terry Cartwright, West 256, South 5084, Oakdale Drive, zip code 53189. That'll probably be a little bit better. Anyhow, it seems that there's more questions on all of this than there are answers. Okay? I have a question. The proposed land to be bought, who owns it?
Actually,
I have a
sir,
question.
Yeah, well, this is public comments, and this is not a back and forth between the board. This is an opportunity for you to make your comments. I'm sorry, that's...
Does this town board act as a fiduciary for the people in the town, or do they just act on their own? I think that's a fair question. What do you think? You asked for comments. I'm giving you some comments. Actually, I'm giving you questions. because from what I see going on, it certainly does not seem that anyone here is acting as a fiduciary. You won't even tell me who owns the land that you're talking about spending what? $300,000 for?
Our money on it. Where is it?
It's my money. Well, guess what? I don't have it. You are not giving me any answers. Why is that? Why is that? It's a simple question. I think you'll find most of these people behind me feel the same way I do. Only I have a tendency to be a bit more vocal about it. They feel the same way.
Why don't we vote?
All right, we appreciate your comments. Thank
Do you?
Yes,
I know they do,
they do.
but I'm not so sure you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry? 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 Yes. Terry?
Yes.
Can I have your slip?
What's it
Good
gonna
evening.
cost me for that?
I just need it for the minutes.
Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Paul Trimborn, South 39, West 22284 Tim Drive, 53189. And what the heck is going on here? I can't believe it. People, you want to vote tonight? Yeah. Let's vote tonight. You're putting this off so you can get away with something. And that's bull plop. Listen, what happens when you guys lose the election next time? You're going to leave us with the money. We're going to leave us with this boondoggle. You guys are, you're making me sick. All right, that's all I have, and all due respect.
Thank you very much.
Brian, can I just take 60 seconds, 30 seconds? People need to understand what Mr. Doer said. This meeting has 2 agenda items on it. They need to vote on it. We've already told them we don't want it to pull that item from the agenda. Let them adjourn this meeting and we can get to the public hearing where you can ask questions. This is not the forum for that. Let's get an adjournment on this.
Is that amenable to everybody? I'll let you speak, but Mr. Ham's suggestion, is that amenable to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, would you still like to speak?
There was a specific request from a board member to go on with public citizen comments. I think the point that, and I hope the point that Mr. Ham was trying to make is to just help educate people that citizens' comments are for us to listen to your comments. It's not a question and answer. I think most of your questions will be answered as the series of meetings progress. Questions such as who owned the land, those will all be things that will be addressed in various public hearings and other votes. But in all of our meetings, all of our board meetings, when we have citizens' comments, for many reasons that have to do with the law and how things are posted, it's very, very difficult for a board to respond to specific questions that are posed to the board during citizens' comments. I would encourage you all to contact any of us in your own time, and most of us have the questions or the answers to your questions. We can answer them in between meetings. But for us to get into a back and forth with citizens' comments, because the questions that you're asking are not agendized, and that puts us in a very precarious legal position. So that's why you're not getting answers to your questions at this time. I think by the time we get to the end of the evening, they will be answered.
Thank
Okay,
you.
would you still like to speak? You're
Yes.
certainly welcome to.
Donna Simmert, West 220, South 3179, Trinity Lane. First of all, regarding questions, I have no questions. I have a comment. I sent a request to the 4 supervisors and to you, Mr. Chairman. I've received an answer from 2 of the supervisors. I don't know what's happened with the other supervisors. So speaking about questions, they're not being answered in the proper forum. This is not the proper forum. I do understand that. But I thought an email with a question would have been at least answered in some manner or form, or even a response that, to look somewhere else. A comment I have, I don't know how much it cost, but I read as much as I could about the Giles Engineering report on looking at the 2 properties. Very complex, came to no conclusion. I don't know how much the town paid for it, but it came to no conclusion. I don't know why it was done without knowledge of the town residents. I am not in favor of the purchase. We have, as someone else did say, we have acreage here. We have a building here that can be even modified, added to, etc., for minimal cost compared to $8,300,000 for a town hall, new town hall, or $300,000 for the property. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If I might, my suggestion to you, and I think Supervisor Durr had a good point here, so we can move this along and hopefully do so fairly quickly. This matter will come up during the town meeting and come up during the budget discussion. I guess I would suggest that, and there'll be plenty of opportunity to talk at that point in time, that we move on if that is agreeable. I'll let you allow people to double back to citizens' comments, but if I could maybe just briefly address why items 6 and 7 are on the agenda, if you give me the opportunity to do that and try to put that into some perspective here. There's a groundswell of people here who apparently are opposed to the purchase of the 2 properties, and I think the town board needs to listen to those voices. I want to just, I guess, tell you a couple of the thoughts that I put together here to put perspective on it so we can move along. And I wrote some of these things that I think are pretty much from the heart. But I said, some town residents have expressed concern that the town did not provide information for them to consider in advance of the meeting tonight. Some have suggested that the town should have convened a meeting to disseminate information days or weeks before they were asked to vote. Notwithstanding that a detailed formal presentation was going to be made tonight and residents were going to be given the opportunity to ask questions, the criticism about the timeliness of making information available to town residents has a lot of merit. And I will repeat that and say the criticism that some are lobbying, if you will, for the timeliness about making information available to town residents, that, from my perspective, has a great deal of merit. Said with that recognition in mind, and we're going to move forward here tonight, the town board and the town staff going forward needs to brainstorm a variety of user-friendly options to make important fact-based information available to town residents in a timely manner, not only on this matter, but on matters going forward. We have available resources that we need to use to electronically communicate with people. Bit off the subject here, but I would encourage everyone in this room, if you're looking to have information on important issues disseminated to you, get us your email address. We're not going to dive deep into that tonight, but we're going to build a database of being able to communicate with people by email. We can work out the details of that going forward. And I think we will begin that discussion for better communications at the town board meeting a week from Thursday night, November 12th. And I would encourage all of you, and we're going to get back to the issue at hand, but if a concern is about dissemination of timely, fact-based, truthful information, I would invite and encourage all of you to come a week from Thursday night. We'll continue that discussion. Be good to see as many of you and hear from as many of you as we can at that point in time. Piece of information that I do need to share to you, which gave thought to the suggestion to postpone a vote tonight, and it was not to deny all the people came out the opportunity to do that, but something that is new information. The two parcels of land are bounded on the east by Big Bend Road and on the west by State Trunk Highway 164. I'm assuming most people know where those parcels of land are. Each of the contracts, and there are two separate ones for the purchase and sale of the properties, include a provision which obligates the sellers to demonstrate that the parcels have access to State Trunk Highway 164, the main highway. Leaving aside the details which we've been provided with, last Thursday on the 31st of October, the town learned that this remains an unresolved issue, access to Highway 164. That's new information for people. And I wrote here, when I voted, along with the majority of the members of the town board, to approve the purchase of the parcels of land, I assumed that access to State Trunk Highway 164 via the existing curb cut there was a given, okay? If the state of Wisconsin Department of Transportation ultimately denies access to 164, I will no longer support the purchase of the properties. This issue needs to be resolved before we were, in my opinion, at least ask town residents to vote affirmatively for it. So that's new information. Other board members may speak to that, but if we cannot get access directly to 164, for me, that's a game changer. I want to spend a minute, and we can get back to it, but a third bit of information. Some folks have contended that these parcels of land are contaminated, and they've shared that in written communications with people. In order to address this issue, the town retained Giles Engineering Associates, Incorporated of Waukesha, to conduct a Phase 1 environmental site assessment of the parcels of land. This is pretty much standard order of business at this point in time. I don't remember the exact number, but we paid them approximately $1,800. Do you have a recollection of that? I think it was $1,795 or something to do that. And one of the speakers previously spoke about the 120-page report. Phase 1 was significantly about looking at historical perspectives and so forth about the land. That report largely came through clean. However, they did advise that we do some Phase 2 testing, which was actually some physical testing on site. And the town board approved the Phase 2 part of the testing for a sum of approximately $3,200. Let me just finish, please. Contrary, again, to what some have falsely reported, there was no historical evidence of any environmental contamination. Giles did, however, recommend this Phase 2 on-site testing, which was authorized by the board. The Phase 2 on-site testing, consisting of 3 soil borings and 6 test pits, was done last week on Thursday and Friday, respectively. We're waiting for the written report. Verbally, we've been advised that no contamination was discovered in any of the soil borings or test pits, with one possible exception, that being a piece of wood which was unearthed in one of the test pits. Last Friday, I authorized the testing of the piece of wood at an estimated cost of $50. I suggested we wait until we receive the final written report from Giles before we were to ask town residents to vote. So that's still an open issue. That's largely is a clean bill of health, but that's not completed. That said, and I invite comments from the board as well, but if the pleasure of the group is not to proceed with items 6 and 7, move along on the agenda. If people's got copies of that, I can get on board with that. So I'll pause at that point, but that's part of this perspective. If there's a criticism to be leveled that the town did not do a good job of communicating information about that, I think that's a fair and valid criticism, and I will bear significant responsibility along with the rest of the town board and the town staff for that. So I will pause there and invite comments from anybody else from the board at this point in time. And then if you just hang on a minute, we'll probably let people speak. But comments from the board, are you prepared to move forward with the rest of the meeting tonight? Do you have anything else you would like to say?
Well, I guess I don't understand what that means, move forward. Are we striking items 6 and 7?
Unless there's, I mean, we go to 6 unless there's some sort of a motion to proceed with it. I mean, that's the place we would be at. And I'm telling you, I
you're
will not
saying-
make that motion tonight.
So you're saying we should proceed to item number 6 and strike that from the agenda?
No, I'm saying on 6, we've got discussion, possible action. If there's no motion or action to be taken on that, it will simply fall, as will number 7, as it would in any other regular meeting.
Okay, well, I think the citizen comments are important for that. The reason being is they're here to voice their opinions.
I understand.
There've already been 3 on this board that have passed the resolution to buy that property. So they're here to convince the people that have already voted towards that to not do it. So
Well-
if you're gonna strike it, that's great, and I'm all for it, and we can move on to the next meeting. But if we're gonna go to item number 6 and 7, and it's gonna go to a vote before the board,
Yeah.
I'm not in support of that
I'm telling
at
you,
all.
I don't think I have the ability to simply say to strike that. It would simply be left to the board whether you want to take action on it. And if you don't, and there's not a motion and a second to do it, we'll move on. So,
I would prefer to hear the citizens' comments. You've got a gentleman
Okay.
standing here.
all right,
Let's let him speak.
Kathy,
proceed.
you need my name and address
I just
again?
need your name again.
Paul Trimble.
Paul, okay.
The town was offered that land for $100,000 a while back. And why is this board gonna pay $300,000 for this land? And also, all due respect, Brian, you are lying to us about all this, what you just said to us. And the German family has a lot to make out of this property. We know that for a fact, all right? Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak, please come forward.
Well, I would like to speak, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
I don't know how my name got brought into this, but I have no ties with that I have no ties, and my family has no ties to that property whatsoever. So I have no idea how my family would have money to be made by this.
I'm going to part her a minute. I mean, Attorney Macy said this really isn't a question and answer thing, but I mean, you can look and they're available. The north property is owned by some folks by the name of Hofstetter, and the south property is owned by some people by the name of Geilfuss, Gilfuss, Gilfuss, or Geilfuss. It's been reported to me that is basically family on the wife's side of Dan Stiglitz, who formerly owned that property. That's the knowledge and information that I have at this point in time about ownership. Okay, hold on. Would you like to speak, sir? Please come forward.
Eugene Gannier, South 36, West 26580, Genesee Road. First, I want to let the board know I was in the overflow area in a firehouse, and there's, I think, 150 people there also that can get in here. And then when I was in firehouse, I counted 16 helmets, so I want to take this opportunity here in front of the public to thank our volunteer fire department for all they do for the town. And then a question that I have will be answered further down the road in additional meetings is, we know that the consulting firm was hired in 2017 to review the cost of enhancing the current structures on this property, which included a remodeled firehouse, sleeping quarters, a DPW building, and a salt shed for about $2.25 million, which from what I hear is about half the price of going forward on the new property. So when you answer questions, I like to know why the new property would bring 2.5 times more value to the citizens than doing it here at this location. That's it.
Thank you very much. Who else would like to speak?
Mr. Chairman, before we continue, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn special town board meeting number 1.
That means that's gonna be out of order because we've started citizen comment and we have to finish citizen comments, and all due respect to all the
Okay,
people.
very good.
If they quit coming up and no one comes up, then citizen comments can be closed.
Very good,
But in-
I understand. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. Mike Morak, W237S4344, Big Bend Road.
Thank you.
Good enough. First of all, gentlemen, thanks for your service. This is not an easy task, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate the complexity of what you're working through right now to try to get this resolved. One of the concerns I have is, to me, it appears as if you've put the cart before the horse. If you have an idea that this is something that's needed, I would think that you would have a proposal, bring it to the town and say, this is a concept that we're pursuing right now, that's something that the town needs. I would have liked to have seen that before coming in here tonight, trying to make a decision whether we should do this right now or not. I did a Google search for the number of people that are living in the town of Waukesha. As of 2016, it reported that we have 8,814 people. It seems to me that to make a vote of this magnitude at this time in this facility does not represent the townspeople of the town of Waukesha, and that something of this magnitude should be allowed to be voted on by every person in the town.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Come forward, please.
Jim Radaba, W254S4387 Pin Oak Lane. I'm not going to reiterate anything that's already been said. We know how everybody is feeling in the audience here today. What I want to talk about and what I want to voice is my concern over the ability and the clear thinking that this board is undertaking, trying to purchase plots of land when it can't even manage purchasing and selling a truck to move snow and spread salt. All right, everybody that came in here saw a for sale sign on a red truck out there that's been a boondoggle for the past year plus. And now you're talking about adding an incremental $9 million over 5 years to capital expense to buy a couple of plots of land and to put buildings on it. Guys, buy and sell a truck successfully first before you come to us and say, we want to buy land. All right? Thank you.
Gentlemen, his point is well taken. We were kind of hoping we might sell the truck tonight. If anybody wants to come forward with an offer, you could deliver it tomorrow. All right, who's next? Thank you, sir. Somebody doesn't want the truck? It's a great value. Welcome. Come forward, please.
Hi there.
Hi.
Ruth Cartwright, W256 South 5084 Oakdale Drive, and I know we've beat this horse to death on how much, but I want to know how much did the town pay for non-communication? And my second question...
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Okay, so obviously there was a lack of communication that we understood before, correct? So how do we get the information to the people in the town that there's even things going on? Obviously, the newspaper doesn't do it anymore. Emails don't work. A lot of people that are older don't have computers. So there has to be another solution. I'm not going to drive by here every day to see what's going on. So there has to be, I don't know if they hired another group from the outside to do a mailing, but obviously their mailing and their information is not adequate to reach the people of the town. My other question is, everybody's here tonight expecting that we were going to take a vote. Why is it not a referendum? Why don't the people have a voice in what this board is doing? We elected you as officials to be a fiduciary, no different than if you're working in business in a company. You're a fiduciary for that company. That's what your job is. It's not about you, it's about everybody in this building right now. And we're not happy with what's going on. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Ruth, do you have your slip? Do you have your slip?
Who else would like to speak?
Gentlemen, Nick Rodig, West 234. I'll wait till you're ready. West 234, South 4825, Mill Creek Trail, 53189. I'm speaking for myself, not for anyone here, but what I would like to know, and I think that's why a lot of people are here, is trying to understand why and how the board decided or arrived at the decision they did. It's my understanding it wasn't a unanimous vote either, so it'd be interesting to understand what it is that the dissenting opinion was, and I think that's really what everyone would like to know at some point before they vote, so that we know what we're voting on. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Who's next? Come on up, please, if you'd like to speak. Sure, go ahead.
Sandy Hom, I'd like to say something in favor of the town. And I posted a picture on Facebook after the last meeting, and the only people in the room other than the board was Mary G. and myself. And so, you know, I get this sense that people want to be spoon-fed the information from the town board. Maybe some people don't have computers. My father's 96, has his iPad, logs in all the time. So I know there's a lot of people here that are elderly that do have. Heck, I'm elderly. But, you know, you can't expect somebody to mail you something every time the board does something. If you want to know how it came to be that the vote was 3-2 to vote for the land, come to the meeting. Don't come to the meeting all at once, 300 people, and then never come again for a year or 2 or 3. I mean, these meetings are empty. Month after month after month, and then people wonder why they don't know what's going on. Well, get involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, who else would like to speak at the microphone? Please come forward.
I don't have a piece of paper, but I'm going to come and talk.
Why don't we let this individual speak first? Come on up. He's got a piece of paper.
John Moorman, S42W25416 Dale Drive. And it's good that we have a turnout. It shows that government works. And it shows that we have 8,000 people in this town, which isn't very much, and that they're interested in what this group does. And that's good. But I don't think for something that costs so much that the information was given out to the people. It should have been a referendum. It should have been a vote prior to this. And I think that's their issue. They want to keep it good, clean government, and that's all they're asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, come on up without your slip of paper.
Oh, I got one now, but
Good, okay.
Tom Higbee, West 238, South 4731, Big Bend Road. I'm a businessman. I'm a real estate broker. But when I hear you people going out and getting testing from a piece of property that you're gonna put a bid in, you should have had them give you the answer for that and not waste our money on something, and then we're all here, you're gonna pay 300 rounds for this money, or for this land with our money, and you don't even have it found out if it's good, safe, or not. I mean, I've been in this business for 30 years, and you people are working for us, and you cannot think about the cost factor of this stuff? Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak?
Tom, could I get your slip?
That's right, it's empty anyway, so.
Would you write your name and address on it?
Who else would like to speak? All right, then if we're done with citizens' comments, we will move on the agenda to item number 6, discussion and
Mr.
possible.
Chairman, I'd now like to make a motion to adjourn special town board meeting number 1. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Well,
That means that it would come to a essentially what that would mean is this meeting would come to a close and the vote would stay on the agenda for later this evening.
We have to follow the agenda, so we're going to go to item 6.
What I understood Attorney Macy to say, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, I understood him to say that because we had started citizens' comments, we couldn't stop midstream. But I believe that a motion to adjourn can be made at any time. Is that correct, Attorney?
Well, two issues are sort of melded here. The chairman has declared public comments to be closed because no one else came forward, so we've concluded public comments to the best of my knowledge. Is my understanding correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we was moving on with the agenda.
Okay.
The second issue that you raise is whether or not a motion to adjourn is always in order or takes precedence on any other motion. And that's true when you're following strict parliamentary procedure. That's all I'm going to say. As to whether or not, we should take up and decide those other two issues or not is a decision for the 5 members of the board. But, I can just advise you as to parliamentary procedure.
So it would be proper for parliamentary procedure to have a motion to adjourn take precedent over the other portions of the agenda.
Well, let me ask you a question.
By adjourning this meeting.
Let me ask you a
because the vote
question.
will stay on the future meeting. That's.
All right. Enough.
All right. If
Enough.
Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to go to number 6, we can get into the discussion and it will become more clear.
We're going to go to item number 6, discussion and
Very good.
possible action on removing the following item from the agenda for the town meeting, which is scheduled for November 5th, 2019. Item 5, discussion and action on the purchase of 2 public properties. Is there a motion with regard to item number 6? Is there a motion with regard to item number 6? Then we'll move on. Item number 7, discussion and possible action to authorize the town chairman to submit counteroffers in the form as approved by the town attorney, granting the town of Waukesha until March 2nd, 2020, the ability to terminate the contract. Is there a motion with regard to item number 7?
What contract?
The buy-sell agreements. Is there a motion?
Okay,
All right.
we can explain that one. I mean, now
All
we
right,
can
go ahead and
explain,
explain.
we can explain both of these if the bodies of want. Mike, you would, our supervisor, Dorr, you had indicated that you acquiesced to moving on and there was no second to the motion to adjourn, so we've moved on to 6. There was no motion.
There was a motion to the second to,
There was a second. There was a motion
what?
and a second.
up to adjourn.
Okay, the chairman did not recognize the motion.
So we
So
moved
we
on.
moved on to number 6, which you can challenge the decision of the chair, but nobody did. We moved on to 6, and we'll explain number 6. People are yelling out, what was the purpose of number 6, right? Number 6, there's a state law that says that town boards cannot buy real property without the electorate's permission. It's 60.10 of Wisconsin statutes that's the reason why it was placed on the later agendas, okay? So let me back up a little bit. So the chairman explained he had 4 reasons why he put on this meeting agenda first to see whether, I got to back up even further, okay? You had an annual meeting in April. In April, you set over the annual meeting, your populace that was here at the annual meeting in April set the meeting over till tonight to set the levy for the taxes for next year, okay? So we start with that. That's called a special town electorate meeting. That's what you're at. Later on the agenda, later on the list of meetings is the special town electorate meeting. It was set last April to set the levy. The town board has the right to add things to that agenda if they're of a mind to do so and they follow the proper state statute procedures, which they did, and they added to the meeting agenda, which is later at the town electorate meeting. This is a town board meeting, by the way. The town electorate meetings later. They added an agenda item to ask your permission to buy the land. Okay? This meeting was to consider removing that request at this time for the reasons the chairman indicated. That's agenda item number 6. No one's voted. That's not been removed. You'll be taking up that issue later at your meeting, the town electorate meeting, because nobody acted on it. Is that, I'm hoping that you all understand that moved it ahead, so there will be a vote. If they had removed it on agenda item number 6, there would have been no vote later on. So at tonight's meeting, if everything goes per step by step, Mr. Chairman, it's anticipated there would be a vote. Number 7, the process for a town to buy land is multifaceted, but I'll keep it very simple. You can condemn land, which the town was not of a mind to do, to condemn those 2 parcels for lots of reasons, or you can have the people who own the land submit a written offer to sell you the land, to sell the town the land. That's what those 2 property owners did. They sent a letter in. The town is not allowed to negotiate the price. Because if you're going to negotiate price, then you got to condemn it. If you want to buy it because somebody offered to sell it to you as a municipality, you have to accept the number they submitted. So the town board got a request from those 2 property owners to consider buying it. And that's all they're doing at this point is considering it, buying it. There are numerous conditions, as the one real estate agent indicated, there are numerous conditions in the offers to purchase the lands. Those conditions included the environmental, they included, most importantly, your permission. Okay? That's why you're here. You can have all the referendums you want, but it wouldn't be binding. You have to have a town meeting, and the people at the town meeting have to give the town board the authority. Okay? So you could have a referendum, you could have 5,000 people vote at an election, and if 10 people showed up at the meeting and voted to buy the land, the referendum would serve it doesn't control. The state statute controls. You have to have a meeting like this where people come in and vote to give the town board the permission to buy it or not to buy it. Okay? I'm not dealing with the issue of whether you have enough information or anything. I'm just telling you the facts. We got 2 letters asking if you want to buy it. They counteroffered. They came up with a contract. That contract has numerous contingencies, including access to 164, your permission, environmental, certified, I don't want to guess on the rest of them. There are probably 8 or 10 conditions. This is one of the boxes that needs to be checked, is the reason we're here tonight. And I hope that answers some of the questions. Agenda item number 7 is to buy more time. They have 90 days from approximately September 8th to decide whether to proceed or not. to satisfy all those conditions. Or those contingencies are satisfied or not satisfied, including your permission. If we don't act within the 90 days, then they have to buy it, or we have to refuse it. Like you do any other contract, you say, we're no longer interested, we're walking away from the deal. It was suggested, in part by me, that may not get this resolved by December 8th, and that we might want to ask the realtor for more time. That's the only reason number 7 is on. In talking to the chairman, and I accept the criticism from Sandy or whoever it was that I could have been more detailed on the details of number 7, but you all now know that it's to ask for more time to satisfy the contingencies. If no one makes a motion, they'll make their decision. You may make it for them tonight, because if you don't approve them buying the land, they're not buying the land. It's a state law. And so the extension may not be necessary. But you need to have some information, and I'm trying to provide a little bit of the legal background of why you're here tonight. I hope that was helpful.
Okay. Thank you very much, Attorney Macy. So I think we were at item 7. Is there a motion with regard to item number 7? Is there a motion with regard to item number 7? All right, if there's no motion, then we'll move on. And just one quick comment before we adjourn. Administrator Nicholas advised me that I misspoke earlier when I said we would have do some brainstorming about better ways to communicate with town residents at the next town meeting. And I believe she said I said November 12th. It's the 14th, the week from Thursday. And again, would encourage you to be here to offer constructive suggestions on how we can better communicate with town residents.
Before we adjourn, while we have everybody's attention, can we tell you what's going to happen next after we adjourn this meeting? Okay. Then we're going to hold the public hearing on the proposed budget. Now, that's different than citizens' comments. That's a public hearing. We hold them every year at this time of the year for you to ask questions about the budget. I don't know, is the administrator going to give a little background information on the budget? I know some copies are available. And so, it's a public hearing. It's required by law to have a public hearing, to publish the summary of the budget, and to hold a public hearing for your input. After we close that public hearing, then we go to that town electorate meeting that I told you about. And there's the agenda is 7 items long, but there are 3 proposed action items. One is to approve the minutes. I should say 3, 4, and 5. Adopt the levy, approve the highway expenditures, and action to authorize or not to authorize the purchase of the public properties. I didn't hear the question.
You're looking for copies of the agenda?
Well, okay. Well, anyway, we will read you the agenda. We'll read you the public hearing notice. Then we'll take comments on the budget. Then we'll read you the town meeting, electorate meeting agenda. And then we'll go through each agenda items. And then when they're done, then the town board holds another meeting to act on the budget based on the guidance that they're given tonight by yourselves. Okay? You can only act on the matters that are on your agenda for the town meeting. It's called to order, the minutes, set the levy for next year, approve the expenditures as set forth in the budget, and decide whether or not you're going to give approval, authorization for the town board to buy the land or the lots or not to buy the lots. But we'll walk you through that again. I just wanted you to get a vision of where we're going from here. Okay?
All right. We're going to move on. I will make a motion to adjourn special town board meeting number 1. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Heard many voices. That was from the town board. I think we've got Supervisor Radke. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're moving on, and thank you, Attorney Macy, for laying out where we're going from here. At this point in time, the public hearing following Town Board Special Meeting number 1 is called to order, and we are called to order on this at 8:28 p.m. On November 5th, 2019, review of the proposed budget. Again, there were copies of that in the newspaper on the town's website, some paper copies here. There are also detailed backup sheets. I mean, do you want to speak to that, or you want me to? I guess I'll summarize that while she's here. But if you look at it, there are actually three budgets. There's an operating budget, a fire inspection budget, and a capital budget. I don't know, unless we're going to do a presentation, are there any, well, I guess the review of that, the document speaks for itself, but if you look at, I mean, I'll just put it into the record here. If you look at the 2020 proposed budget for operating for total revenues and expenditures is $2,653,901. The fire inspection budget, again, the budget on that, the proposed budget is for revenues of $113,335, which includes, as I understand it, some of the existing fund balance, and the total expenditure proposed at $44,619, and the capital budget is proposed at $927,800 of both revenues and expenditures, and again, there's detail provided on that. Kathy, you want to say anything more to that?
No, I don't. He summarized well.
All right, so then we'll go to item 3. I'll simply read this, but Chairman, to review Town Ordinance Section 2-57, procedure at public hearings. Following procedure shall be used at public hearings conducted by the town board, such as this. Chairperson will read the notice. The chairperson shall then call on those persons who wish to speak for the proposition. Each person wishing to speak for the proposition shall give his or her name and address. Each person speaking on behalf of the proposition shall be limited to a reasonable time as set by the board. The chairperson shall then call on those persons who wish to oppose the proposition. Each such person wishing to speak in opposition to the proposition shall give his or her name and address, and shall also be limited, if any person wishing to speak in rebuttal to any statements made may, with the permission of the chairperson, do so, provided, however, such rebuttal statement shall be limited to 3 minutes by any one individual. And when the chairperson is in his or her discretion is satisfied that the proposition has been heard, she shall announce the fact that the hearing is concluded. So item 4 is electors to speak in favor of the budget. I mean, this is pretty well scripted. It's supposed to be those speaking in favor, those speaking opposed, and those who choose to make rebuttal statements will loosen that a little bit, and I presume we may go back and forth. But at least we'll start with anybody who would like to speak in favor of the budget. Do you want to comment?
Well, only that in this case, as I believe Mr. Dorr and others have said, we do answer questions during a public hearing, but we don't go back and forth with a resident. What we normally do is let the residents stand up if they have questions. We write down all the questions. When they sit down, then we answer those questions, and then we get the next person. Otherwise, we could go back and forth for an hour with just one person. So we've always followed this procedure, and I hope people will be willing to let us follow this procedure this time also. But you can make any comments, questions on the budget, and then when the budget hearing is closed, then we'll move to the special town electorate meeting and the votes.
One other quick thing, and Administrator Nicholas just informed me, the fire chief said we're a bit over capacity. Some of you who came in late, we're going to ask you if you would kindly go down to the fire station, to the overflow area for late arrivals, please. Okay, who would like to speak at the public hearing? Please come forward.
Chris Lofter, W262 South 3186 Ridge Road. I would like to confirm the property tax levy that is set, that does include the cost of the land plus $40,000 in additional testing, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again, or say the second part first.
The second part, there's like $347,800, I do believe, for the purchase of the land.
I believe.
And $40,000 for, I don't know, testing, development, maybe sketching, I don't know, for the land. So that's $387,800. That is included in the proposed tax levy, correct?
That's correct.
It is, it actually, it's balanced against it. There are actually funds in the capital fund in excess of $2 million in terms of the capital fund part of it. If we were to, and correct me on this, but if we were to remove that from the budget, I believe the town board would still consider the levy of 370, help me with it, thousand
For those,
and
for
some odd dollars for
370,000.
As
For capital
electorates, though,
projects.
we may remove that from the tax levy, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, I believe.
Let's make sure we get the whole story, though. You've got some great questions, and I don't want to give anybody misinformation. How much money is being proposed in this budget be removed from contingency in order to balance the budget? You need to know this number also, because if you don't, you keep your contingency where your contingency is at. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, you're talking about keeping extra money in the reserve fund
That they
while
would be.
levying the full amount for the land.
Well, levying the full amount is, if you vote no on the land at the meeting, they're not buying the land.
Correct, but the
Right.
money is still in the levy.
But the money would be either put into reserves or other monies wouldn't be taken out of reserves. Just so you know, I mean,
It's still the same thing. You have it budgeted to spend, regardless of whether it's coming from money we paid previously or money we will pay on this year's tax bill.
But I guess I'll answer your question this way. If it goes that way, that the land purchase is not approved, okay, the capital funds, then that money would not be spent, would not be taken, or basically it would go back into a reserve, if you will, could be reallocated for other capital needs and other capital projects.
Correct. That's exactly what I'm saying. You're going to keep the money, you're going to levy it and keep the money.
For other capital needs.
No.
Yes.
No, you developed the budget without that, so I'm sorry. I will be trying to make the motion to reduce that levy by that amount.
Next speaker.
I don't know if anyone, Sandy Hom, West 230, South 3827 Milky Way Road. Sandy Hom, West 230, South 3827 Milky Way Road. I'm used to speaking to an empty room. I think people, even Ms. Lufter has a misconception on how this works. What happens is there's going to be a motion made to set the levy by someone in this room, maybe me, maybe her, but monies don't get subtracted. You make a motion for what you want the levy to be, and it can be lower than the 1.3, it can be greater than maybe a little bit than the 1.675, but I'm looking at this page of the summary, and the general fund that they want to levy, that they're asking to levy, for us to accept, is $1,304,576 for operating expenses. I propose that be the amount that gets levied. Thank you.
Where do you get that? Oh. Yes.
Lori Longtime, W271 S3581, Oak Knoll Drive. My comment is not so much to the budget. I should have probably said this before, but regarding communication, I agree with the chairman's assessment that it could have been better, but for people that read their information online, The notice of this meeting and the agenda that was posted online is unreadable. It is, I don't know what the technical problem is, but it is a problem that has occurred before, and it is so small you cannot read it even online by trying to enlarge the document or trying to enlarge the window. It doesn't work. So that would be a very small, I would assume, an easy technical fix that we should pursue and put into place so that people who do want to find out information, maybe not during regular business hours, but later or earlier, can simply go online and read it. If it's on there, we should be able to read it. And I understand that this is a problem that's occurred before, and people were having trouble reading things on their phone. So let's fix it and communicate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori,
Who else
can I
would
have
like-
your slip, please?
Who else would like to speak?
It's the same zip as everybody.
I'm sorry, your slip, ma'am.
Okay, who would like to speak?
Jim Radabaugh. Yeah, the truck guy, thanks. I'm sorry, I was downstairs in the overflow area, so I need some clarification on what was said before.
Sure.
So the proposed tax levy, can you please clarify, does it or does it not include the estimated funds to purchase these 2 plots of land?
Let's answer the question this way. If you look at the sheet here, okay, the proposed tax levy for 2020, okay, is for the general fund is $1,304,576, okay? The proposed tax levy for the capital fund is $370,866. If the decision tonight is not to approve those properties, the money will obviously not be spent to purchase them, but the money that's being levied to go into the capital fund will go for other capital reserves or capital needs, such as roads, such as whatever the board and the electorate choose to do, such as building a salt shed, a public works building, new equipment, ambulances, or whatever. It will go there. Let me just finish quickly. If you look at what is proposed to be done, the property tax levy, and maybe we've got to look at the number on that, but the proposed budget of the proposed property tax levy is not significantly different than it was last year. I mean, at that rate, last year's mill rate even was $1.82 per thousand. That means each town resident, if you had a $200,000 property, you're paying a little over $360 for property taxes. If it's $300,000, it's a little over like $540 for a $300,000 house. The proposed total tax levy, and maybe you can give us the exact numbers on that, is not significantly different this year than it was from last year. So if the electorate does not approve the levy for the capital fund, basically the town is going to be deprived of funds to do roads and road repairs, buy equipment and that type of thing. That's the bottom line.
With
Okay.
all due respect, Chairman, it sounds like you're playing a little fast and loose with the numbers, and
I'm
it
not.
sounds inappropriate, and based upon that, I will stand against adding this to the levy.
Do you want to go through the numbers, please?
I'm not sure what numbers you want me to go through. Our assessed value for 2019 is $9,915,416,700, with the tax levy that the board is requesting, or what the state allows, is $1,675,442. Our mill rate changes in 2019 tax levy, or 2000 taxes from $1.82 to $1.83 with the current rate at $1,675,442. So what the chairman was stating was that we have a couple different funds. We have the general fund, which is our regular operating fund, and then we also have a capital fund. And in our capital fund, we had projects that the board had voted on. One was the property. Others were, we had $200,000 in there for road paving for next year. With the, in the capital fund, there is an amount of tax levy that we actually put into the capital fund of $370,850 and the rest of the money that is needed, we're using out of fund balance from the capital fund balance, and that capital fund balance, the chairman was saying, is about $2 million. That is for capital projects in the future, fire trucks and such, as well as buildings, future building items. I don't know if that clarifies it all, but if you remove the tax levy that the electorate can vote on today, you would vote the tax levy you want the board to work with in the budget. The board is asking that for the amount that the state allows, which is the $1,675,442. If the town residents decide they want to change that, they can't go up because tax levy limits are in place. But if you wanted to change that, that would be the motion. You would say, I want to move that the tax levy, to approve a tax levy of whatever you want, 1 million, blah, blah, blah.
What's
so, 1,675,442.
I also would refer you, sir, if you have the minutes. Sorry. If you have the minutes, you're going to find that last year's levy was $1,656,244. So we're
Correct.
talking the difference between 1,656 and 1,675. We are not talking a difference of $300,000. I just want to make sure you know that.
No,
because if we lose that money, you can't get it back to pay for roads or anything else. There's no way to recoup all of that money.
And Attorney Macy, thank you for clarifying that, because that underscores the point that I think everybody's charged up about is there's a proposal to purchase these plots of land with no way to be able to pay for it, because you've already set what the expected levy is, right? So where was that money going to come from?
Part of 370,000, 370,866 would come from tax levy. The rest would come from fund balance.
That was my point, that I just wanted, you're going to vote on anything you want to vote, but you have to understand it would be leaving the money in the fund balance instead of taking it out.
Yep.
The actual amount of the levy is like, increase is like $19,000. It's not the $300,000. And if you take that money away, which you have every right to say, that will mean less money that they won't buy the land if you say no, but they could spend on roads or fire department or police or any of the other services that they may be chipped away at in order to balance this budget. I wasn't here. I wasn't part of that process.
Right.
Our job is to make sure you understand. That was the complaint. You didn't understand what was going on, and I just wanted to make sure we gave you enough information.
Got it.
The tax levy for, and I don't have the exact numbers here, but for the last 5 years at least has been right around 1.6 million,
Right.
1.65 million dollars. The town, with being fiscally prudent and fiscally responsible for quite a number of years in a row, has been able to run a budget surplus on the operating budget. And I think town residents, town board members, town staff need to be complemented a bit on that. So what has happened is we have from time to time moved some of that operating budget surplus into a capital fund. We were advised appropriately 3-4 years ago by, I think, Attorney Macy, by the auditor, other people, you can't squirrel away money without a use or purpose for it, okay? But the big, I'll just finish up here quickly, but I mean, the big picture part of it, I mean, let's celebrate here for a minute. The town of Waukesha is basically debt-free, and that is a thing that which I think we owe many people who have led this town in years past. Don't want to dump on a neighbor, but I mean, the village of Big Bend is $5.1 million in debt.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The town of Waukesha, I'll just finish quickly, but in the town of Waukesha, if you look, Kathy has estimated, here I think of an estimated fund balance in the capital fund toward the end of the year here, and I think I saw that number. Can you help me, Kathy? But approximately $2 million, and an estimate in the general fund of approximately $900,000. And the only debt that we have is approximately a $10,000 interest-free loan to Waukesha County. Everybody in the room should applaud that fact because we're basically working with cash. But the place we're at, if you look at the list in the capital budget, leave aside the land purchase type of thing, or assume for a minute that goes away, but you look at the requests that we have for plow trucks, for backhoes, for roads. Town of Genesee is looking to borrow $3 million for road improvements. That's a debt they're going to have to pay. We're working off of cash, but if you try to back it off to the $1.2 million, then it's going to basically tie up the ability to buy equipment to
Chairman-
replace ambulances, roads,
Chairman,
and so forth
I
going
get it,
forward.
Chairman. All right, I get it. I think everyone
Okay.
in the room gets it.
What's
right?
that?
We get it. I get
Okay.
it. I understand your point.
Well, I didn't mean
Right.
to pound on you, but
No,
we got an obligation here that people understand what they're
wanna move
voting
along,
on,
sir.
so they don't walk out of here and say, oh my gosh, what did we do? I mean, if tonight's message is about disseminating information and educating people, we'd really be remiss if we walked out of here tonight without doing that.
I understand that, and I would urge the board to not break your arm patting yourself on the back too much, because there's plenty of warts out there too, sir. But
Fair enough.
that said, in light of the fact that the plot of lands purchases is not going to impact the levy, I'm okay with where we're at then.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you.
So, just so I can give you some historical, really quickly, historical. In 2013, your tax levy rate was $1,648,000. In 14, the board cut your tax levy to $1,585,000. In 15, the board kept it at $1,585,000 with no increase. In 16 was up to $1,605,000, and in 17 $1,645,000, which is still under what it was in 2013. In 2018, the board approved the town electorate approved a levy of $1,656,000. The board currently is asking for $1,675,000 for 2020.
And just one other quick thing, I'll let you speak, sir, but Attorney Macy might better be able to speak to it, but the town of Waukesha here, there are state-imposed levy limits, okay? Those cannot be exceeded. The level of taxation, we're at the will of the group or what or not, those cannot be exceeded without a referendum. And if you follow the news, their school districts and communities are asking for referendums of their citizenry to exceed levy limits. We can't do that. So some of the rumors about people's taxes, and I see people shaking their heads, your taxes are going to go through the roof and everything. The town board does not have the power to exceed the state-imposed levy limits. It's just that simple without a referendum, and I hope everybody would understand that before. There's a lot of important decisions to make about the prioritization of how to spend the money, and that's been a lot of tonight's discussion is about prioritization, but the walk out of here that the town board is gonna raise your taxes through the roof, couldn't do it if we wanted to. State-imposed levy limits, that simple, please.
Eugene Ganere, South 36, West 26580 Genesee Road. The lady who first spoke tonight brought up the fact that the land purchase is in no way, shape, or form tied to the town becoming a village. I just want to make that statement because I know a lot of people came in late, and I was glad to hear that. My top priority for the board, and I believe the majority of the town residents' top priority, is for us, the town, to become a village. I think it's the best benefits of everybody. We're all in the same boat on that one. So my question is, does the budget include all monies, for example, lawyer fees, in case the city wants to bring us to court and there might be a long legal battle? Does the budget include all monies to help us become a village?
I think that's a fair question. We'll answer it now. Yes, it is costing us money in our effort to become a village. I'll explain that a little bit. But the whole thing is, if we do not make that effort and we're not successful and additional lands from the town are annexed into the city of Waukesha, the village of Big Bend, the city of New Berlin, or even the town of Brookfield, if they were to incorporate it, or the town of Vernon, and the town shrinks, our economic viability shrinks with it. It's death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, we have, and Kathy read through it, basically our total aggregate assessed value for the town. If we continue to lose land through annexation, that drops. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Then back to your question, the town board, and I think it was unanimous decisions of the town board, we have allocated, and correct me if I'm wrong, but $50,000 for engineering, attorney, and consultants fees, and we did a second put on that, if you will, am I not correct on that, of $50,000, basically as budget amendments to this year's budget. Those are big sums of money. We could continue that discussion, but that is about trying to fight for our future. What the total tab of that ends up being is a bit unknown, but I think the board was unanimous in thinking that's a responsible thing to do because we want to protect our town and the integrity of it.
Well, that's great to hear. Go fight.
Thank you.
So I just want to correct the amounts, looking at the budget. In 2019, the board did a budget amendment and moved $100,000 into border protection, which is our incorporation work. In 2020, they put in an additional $30,000 in the 2020 budget for that purpose.
So that means they already moved $100,000 out of the contingency fund into the budget this year to work on that project, the border security. If you reduce the levy and they don't buy the land, they would be able to replace that contingency back to the rate where it's at for those $100,000. Those are the kind of things you at least have to understand when making that decision, because they are separate decisions, reducing the levy versus buying the land. It's not that they're going to squander the money if you give it to them. It's the same amount. It's only $19,000 and a few dollars more than last year's levy. It's not $300,000 more. So to strike it by $300,000, you at least got to understand the ramifications of that. Okay? I mean, that's the only point we're trying to make sure you understand the facts.
Just even one other quick thing, and you could correct me, and I know Supervisor Durr, I think you even made the motion. I believe earlier this year in 2019, the town board moved, I believe, $450,000, am I correct on that, from
That's correct.
the operating fund to the capital fund. And you could, I guess, call that operating surplus. We, a bit left over from 18, but we also dug in a little bit deeper to the operating reserve. That was a decision that the board made unanimously. And in some respects, at the end of the day, whether the money is in that capital fund or in the operating fund doesn't make a huge amount of difference. It can be transferred. Part of that was because the town, with being penny pinching has been able to run in the black in the past. The reality of it with this year, with the $100,000 of budget amendment for the incorporation effort, I mean, that's going to erode against the bottom line for 2019. It's simply that way. That was not an expense that we anticipated, or that anybody who was here anticipated last year when the budget was put together in November. We didn't anticipate this incorporation opportunity. Was not on the radar screen a year ago. That wasn't on the radar screen until early summer, something like that, thereabouts.
Spring.
Spring, late spring. So that's a decision that the board has made, one that I certainly support, and hopefully town residents support on that. It's costing us some money, but hopefully it'll pay dividends in the end, big time. Sorry we wandered off a bit, but I think those are awfully good questions. And again, if the theme of tonight is dissemination of information, that's what we need to do. Who else would like to speak about the proposed budgets?
I'll speak in favor of the budget, Mr. Chairman. And when I talk about speaking in favor of the budget, I'm speaking about in favor of setting the tax limit at $1,675,442. And let me explain myself. A lot of the questions in the audience surround how are we paying for the land? And if we don't buy the land, which I thoroughly support not buying the land, I will not support any capital budget that has any money in it for the purchase of land should it pass the vote tonight. But the reality is that the plan to pay for the land came from many, many cuts of things that shouldn't have been cut, in my opinion. There were conversations about fire equipment that needed to be replaced that we have been trying to get replaced since 2006, 2007. That was again moved down the line into 2022 and 2023. There were cuts made in road paving. I would have preferred to see the road paving in the capital budget set around $300,000 or $350,000, and it was reduced to $200,000. So when we're talking about how was the plan to purchase land paid for, in my opinion, it was paid for by neglecting other projects. And should the vote fail to pass to purchase the land tonight, which is how I will be voting, should it fail to purchase, I would support maintaining the tax levy so that we can go back to funding the things that need to be funded. I would like to see an increase in the capital budget with the $347,800 to increase road paving and look at bringing some of our fire equipment replacement back into either 2021 or 2022, and and to cycle some of our plow trucks. So that's really how the land purchase was planned to be paid for, by pushing other projects down the road. So it would be my opinion, and it's the right of the electorate, and I will fix a budget for the money that you give me, and I will do it with a smile on my face. But it would be my plan to support a budget and a tax levy at $675,442. And my commitment to all of you, and I'm one vote, but I will push to put that money where I feel it belongs, which surrounds road paving, fire equipment replacement, and plow truck replacement.
Okay, who else would like to speak on the budget?
Good evening. Ron Krieger, S31 W25080, Green Valley Drive. I'm on the island down here. First off, what's the threat of putting us in the city if that goes through? If our village status?
So can I speak on?
Sure, go
so
ahead.
In the incorporation, the statute that we're looking at using, that we're trying to use, allows us to keep all of our islands in the town. So you're all safe within the town. The city you would not be pushed to the city, or the city would not be able to take you. If we incorporate under this statute, which sunsets June 30th,
right,
we can keep all of our town residents that we currently have, and that's the direction the board is looking to do.
Good, good.
Okay.
Okay, one other thing, whether it counts or not, why wasn't this big red Christmas ornament traded on a new plow truck? Sitting out in front.
At this point, we're trying to get return on our investment to put toward a new truck.
Why can't it be traded?
We're trying to get more than a trade-in value.
Oh,
So we're trying that first.
okay, all right.
Just a quick comment regarding the incorporation effort. If we're successful on that, we would be a village which would preclude annexation into the city of Waukesha. The city cannot annex the property without the property owner's consent, but we are basically trying to lock it up in perpetuity. It's just that simple. Yes, please.
John Dimick, S51 W23115, Partridge Lane. A question about the reserves. We heard at one point tonight about 2-point-something million in reserve, and now we just heard about an operating reserve. So how many reserves are there, and what's the total in the reserves?
Sure, I'll answer your question on that a bit with regard to the operating fund. Okay, we have had previous advice from financial people, from attorney, and that type of thing. I don't believe an Attorney Mason can speak to it. There's a hard and fast part of the statute, but there is a recommendation to us that many communities keep 15, 20, 25% of their annual operating budget in reserve. I mean, if it were 25%, it'd be 3 months worth, right? If it were 15%, it'd be more like 2 months worth. The town several years ago adopted a reserve policy for the operating fund to maintain it at not less than 25%, I believe, and I'm running a memory, no more than 40%, which is really on the high end of it. I just saw something in the Towns Association newsletter just this past week that they were suggesting some communities do it at 10%. We were maintaining it at around 40% for 3-4 years. This past year, the board reduced it because we took $450,000 into the capital fund, if you will. So we reduced it roughly to say 32% or something of our annual operating budget at roughly $2.6 million of annual operating budget. Roughly 40% of that was around $1 million. We reduced that a bit. And the capital fund does have money in it, but if you look at the list, and Supervisor Durr spoke to that, some of us have different priorities. I think an absolute high priority for this town is to have sleeping quarters for the fire department, to improve our response times. We need a public works building on this property or someplace. We have most of our equipment is outside rusting away. We cannot preload trucks with salt to go out. I mean, it's going to snow tomorrow. We can't preload those trucks because we can't put them inside. We're running over to the highway department garage on Grandview to get salt because the county stores us. I believe we need a salt storage facility so we don't have to go over there and wait to get loaded. It's inefficient. So there are a lot of capital needs, and there is a fund balance in that of a couple $1 million, but the dream list or the wish list that for the next 5 years, purchasing the property or not, it's a big list. It's deeper than the pocketbook, so that's the purpose for it.
Okay, thank
That
you.
answer your question?
So John.
Go ahead.
So the chairman mentioned the reserve. You had asked about the reserve. We only have one reserve, and that's for the general fund to make sure we can make payroll and make our bills. But with all of the fund balance, we have fund in the operating fund. We have fund in the fire inspection fund, and then we also have fund balance in the capital fund. That comes to $3,774,337. That's what you were asking.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak?
I will provide no slip. My name is Lori Longtine, W271S3581, Oak Knoll Drive. That's my Revolutionary Act for the day. I just want to speak quickly to the issue of village status. And a lot of people came out to this meeting tonight. They're concerned about how the town is spending our money. And they don't want their tax levies to go up. I don't want mine to go up either. But I just want to reiterate how important that village status is. And I support any costs in the budget that will move us toward that village status and protect our decisions should the city of Waukesha decide to challenge that. It's really important to get to that 1,675,000 and change, that everybody in this room is paying their fair share, their tax levy. And what happens is when people, subdivisions, there's still open land still in the town, and when developers buy up this land, they've got no one living there that says, hey, I either want to be in the city or I don't. The developers just, it's a cash cow for them, because they get annexation to the city, and then they can charge more for their lots. They can put more more houses closer together, and then pass that on to the unsuspecting people that are going to buy those houses. So that is another way that annexation can erode our tax base. And what will happen is, as our tax base erodes, we won't be able to provide the services that we have come to depend on, and it's going to spread this tax levy out over fewer people, and then everybody's going to have to pay more, whether we like it or not. So, and I would urge you, please, if you're in this room and you're thinking about selling your property, be aware that, the new people might feel differently about the town of Waukesha. If we had village status, that won't be an issue. They wouldn't be able to choose to annex to the city of Waukesha. The same thing with that man that lived in the island. He might at some point sell his house to somebody that, wow, I'd like to be in the city. And so we lose that tax base too. And that's how, when we say erosion, it's a slow eating away of the tax base. So I would encourage everybody to think about your future as a town, and hopefully that everybody in this room is going to be in strong support of seeking that village status in order to protect our borders and our tax base legally. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We've perhaps wandered a bit away from the budget hearing, but to the extent that that is a huge component of the financial future of the town of Waukesha, I think it's okay to wander a bit. Who else would like to talk? Anybody else interested in speaking? All right, then we'll call once again any electors to speak in favor of the budget. Any electors wishing to speak in opposition to the budget? Any electors wishing to speak in rebuttal to any of the statements that have been made this evening? This is last chance. Okay, hearing none, then we will close the public hearing. I think we're going to, unless anybody needs people in the audience can take a comfort stop. Does anybody on the board need that? If not, we're going to keep going.
Let's keep going.
All right, we're going to keep going then. Thank you. I'm sorry.
I want to talk. I'm from downstairs.
Oh, it took her a while to get up.
All right, then we're gonna
Okay.
break the rules a bit here. We have someone who is running up from downstairs that
Yes.
wants to speak
People
in the
downs-
public hearing. I will allow that unless there's any objection.
Okay.
Please proceed.
People downstairs are standing. This is taking way too long. We have had 76 people leave. Can we move this along?
That's
Sure.
what we're doing. Thanks.
Town meeting. Following the special town board meeting number 1 on public hearing, starting at 7 p.m. The town meeting is starting at 9:15. We are called to order. Approve and dispense with the reading of the minutes of the 2018 special town meeting. And again, I believe, and correct me, that these motions can come from any citizen or resident, or they can come from the board. So is anyone of a mind to approve and dispense with the reading of the minutes of the 2018 special town meeting? Okay, the motion is there, and we have your name?
Please, Kathy, you need her name, correct?
Yes? Okay, thank you. Is there a second to the motion to approve and dispense with the reading of the minutes?
Okay, give me a name.
Give us a name, anybody? Ron Krieger. All right. We'll do this by voice vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Do we need to send
Opposed?
somebody to the fire department?
I think actually what I'm going to recommend, even though it's going to take a few minutes, the chair has to declare whether the motion passes. If he's in doubt, then we do the show of hands or standing up, and then ultimately if he's not sure. I think, in fairness to both groups, we'll ask for the motion here. The motion's been made and seconded, and you'll rule, and then he's going to have to walk downstairs and listen downstairs too.
All right.
And if he's in doubt, then he'll come back and announce it. And hopefully it'll be obvious, and I don't care which way it goes, but I think in fairness, that's what we have to do to both groups. So the chairman heard the vote up here, right, Mr. Chairman? Okay. I got to do it, figure out some way to do it fairly. Absolutely. So quiet though. Wow. There were a lot of statements that were made that you must have been writing the inside of your mind. I'm just being. I know. I thought it was going to explode a few times.
It would have exploded if to take the vote. Then it wouldn't explode.
Hi, Sandy.
Okay, your attention, please. We're going to move this along quickly. I sense the vote on that was unanimous below as well. So then we need to move to item 3, which is to adopt the 2019 town tax levy to be paid in 2020 pursuant to section 60.101A of Wisconsin statutes. And again, if someone is inclined to adopt the tax levy, the sum on that as proposed is what? Do we have that number again, please?
$1,675,220 and $442.
$1,675,442. Is someone inclined to make such a motion? Name, please.
Roger, M-E-K-K-A.
Thank you. Is someone inclined to second that motion? I've got Michaeline Knable. Thank you. All right. All in favor of adopting the, setting the levy to be paid in the amount of $1,675,442. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Be right back.
Should I announce that or? I told Kathy and she said. All it does is ratify your spending. Others are not doing You don't.
Okay, the group downstairs is following your lead. That was unanimous.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I should announce, and Kathy's been advised, the next agenda item, the state statute's been repealed, and you no longer need electorate permission to spend. There's an ancient law that if you're going to spend more than $5,000 on roads, I'm paraphrasing, you needed the electorate's permission. Well, there's no town around this area that doesn't bring this in, so they repealed it a few years ago, and so
we can dispense with item 4, approve the 2019 highway expenditures to exceed $5,000 per mile. Is that true? How about that? Isn't that a breath of fresh air? All right.
Running downstairs.
Item 5, discussion and action on the purchase of 2 public properties. To move this along, I am going to, in terms of the chair of the meeting, entertain a motion to purchase the 2 public properties. And again, that can come from the floor or it can come from the board.
And I'm going to make a caveat because it gets too confusing if you make a negative motion. So the motion is to approve, and if it fails, then they can't buy the land. So if you're opposed to it, you would vote no. If the motion is to authorize, the technical motion is to authorize the town board pursuant to section 60.10 of the Wisconsin statutes to purchase the properties as proposed. If you vote yes, that gives them the authority to buy it. If you vote no, it doesn't allow them. The mere fact that you make the motion in the positive doesn't mean that you can't vote no. Okay?
So is there such a motion? I'll ask again, is there such a motion?
Well, and it could die without.
I'm sorry?
For discussion, yeah. It's been made. She moved it.
Chris moved it.
You're moving.
That's fine, yeah.
So we've
So
got
she
a
made the
first.
motion.
All right.
Made the motion.
She made a motion. She made a motion to purchase
To
the
authorize
2
the
public
town board to
properties.
purchase.
All right. And is there a second to the motion from Ms. Lufter?
And what's the name?
In your name, sir? Tom?
All right. Then we'll take a vote on that. All in favor of the motion is indicated to purchase the 2 public properties indicate by saying aye. All right, go ahead.
I don't have a slip, but I will fill it out for you. My name is Lisa Karstensen, W274S3951 Stonegate Road. I am very very familiar with the rulings or the parliamentarian. So you had a motion to vote and second. Do you dispense with the discussion of the motion?
Well, all right, good point, well taken. We have a motion and a second. Is there anyone who would like to discuss it? Point well taken, thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? We can backtrack. The motion was by Ms. Lufter, and I'm not sure the gentleman in back seconded the motion to approve the purchase of the 2 public properties. So is there discussion on the motion? All right, and I'll probably do this right. Be right back. I will
Hold
ask
on,
you.
they didn't vote.
Well, I understand, but I want to see if there's any discussion below before we vote. I'll be right back.
You could ask them to vote while you're down there. Well, the discussion, they should come up here and talk at the microphone. If they have.
I tried to say it slow enough, but I could tell there's a difference.
He's running for president.
All right, moving on, there was no discussion. There was no discussion on the motion in the fire station. We took the vote down there ahead of the vote above here. There was one, and I believe only one vote in favor. The rest were opposed. So we'll proceed here. If you understand, the motion is to approve the purchase of two public properties. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Two.
There were
Can
several
I get
ayes.
your hands? Can I get your hands for ayes?
Hands, please.
1, 2, 3. 3? Okay.
3,
3. I got 1, 2, 3.
4.
Did you see another one?
How many? Raise them high quickly or
Try
just
it
count
again.
out.
Try it again.
Shout out numbers. 1.
2, 3. 3. Okay.
All right, so there are 4 in favor, the balance opposed.
Did you give them the ability to say opposed?
Opposed. All right, I'm sorry, we didn't get that part opposed. All those opposed to the motion indicate by saying aye. All right. Okay. We have item 6.
Motion fails. You need to announce it.
Motion failed. Item 6, public comments. Are there any further public comments during the town meeting? All right, come forward, please.
Hi, Sandy Hom. I just had one comment. Everybody participated in this meeting. I've been coming to these meetings for a number of years, but we're all in favor of incorporation. I'm in favor of incorporation, but villages don't have town meetings. They don't have an annual meeting where the electors set the levy. So once we become a village, you won't have a meeting like this anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
My name is Catherine Marriott, West 225, South 3626 Foxcroft
Hold on just a minute.
Lane.
Hold on just a minute. I know some of you are exiting the room. Thank you for coming, but do it as quietly as you can so this lady has a chance to speak. Go ahead.
This was all new to us. This came like a shock to us that there was any plan at all to buy land, to move the buildings, to do whatever. My question is, had you actually negotiated to buy the land before any of us were informed about it? That's the question. Did this board negotiate to buy property before the electorate even knew about it?
I'll answer your question this way. All of the actions on these were taken in public meetings. So all of this was public. There was none of this that was done behind the scenes. All of the actions, the board's actions on all of this was done in public meetings.
Okay.
So I would encourage.
Then we have not received, I would say, the only way that would be the fair and equitable way to communicate with your citizens of your town would be through direct mail, directly to their homes. Because people don't get the Waukesha Freeman. They don't go on your website. The only way that you can be assured that the information needed by your voters is out to them is by sending it directly to their home address.
This is how we found out.
All right. Okay, I would just tell you, appreciate your comments. Again, I would encourage you and everyone else to come to the meeting next Thursday. We will talk about, and I'm telling Kathy right now to put that on the agenda, we will talk about how to disseminate information and communicate with town residents. Any other public comments?
I just wanted to state, you're all going to be getting a tax bill soon. And I hear many times that you don't have your burn permit, you haven't seen the newsletter we put out. In your tax bills, please look in your tax bills. We put out as much information that the board wants to get to you. Now obviously this couldn't come out ahead of time, but they're trying to get that information out, your burn permit, your yard waste permit, that's all in there. So don't throw it out like it's part of what's in your electric bill. This is something we want you to review.
And I guess I'll make one last comment, again, encouraging people, if you're not aware of it, the meetings are basically on the town's YouTube site. They're in a library. People can look at them live. You can go look at them. We do have the town website. Again, we're going to talk about working, I think, forward in terms of having electronic and emailing communications. You can go on the town website. They're not always up there immediately, but meetings of minutes and everything. I think we need to do everything we can from this part of it, but Mr. Hom spoke to it before. There's got to be a little bit of initiative taken by people too, because the cost of even sending out a direct mailing to everybody in the town, I mean, we could do that, but do people want to pay the cost of a monthly newsletter? I mean, that's an open question, and we can talk about that next week. It gets costly. So, all right, any other public comments before we adjourn the town meeting?
You have my name in that for the record.
All right, we're going to move along then. Is there?
I'm not done yet.
All right, well, we got
Sorry.
people saying to move this thing along.
Only
Let's
because
go.
somebody asked me the question, I'm going to do this.
All right.
I'm going to go from left to right, and I'm going to ask each supervisor how they voted on the purchase of this land. Jim Radke. David German.
I was for it due to the fact in the beginning, this land did affect our village status because we were entertaining the idea of using this parcel of land to help us along with that status.
Okay, so you're looking at spending $8 million to try and make us a village, is what you were doing. Brian Fisher,
You're asking me, not tonight, but you're asking me originally?
originally,
Yes, I voted in favor of the purchase of parcels of land. I absolutely think the town has got to do something. We have been, since 2011, we've been unable to even purchase an emergency generator for the fire station here. We've had a 2000.
so you want to spend $8 million in
No, I
addition
didn't say
to-
that. I want to move something along. I think we have pressing needs. You're asking for a point of view for sleeping quarters, for the fire department, for response time. Most of the town residents that I talk to, they consider that a high priority. I think we need to get our trucks, public work department trucks inside. I think that will increase their longevity. I think it will help with response time. I think we need to find a way to build a salt storage structure. Those needs are not going to go away. And if they're to be done on this site, fine, but we got to get on with the show.
Michael Dorr
I was opposed.
and Bob Stigler.
I voted for it, but the reason I voted for it, and not for $8 million, that was never on the agenda. The numbers that we're hearing of $8 million were never discussed. That's all numbers that somebody came up and fabricated. We never had bids. We never had any solitary money other than for the land. And the problem with the land, that the way I saw it, was that we can buy the land. We didn't have to build on it. We can sell the land in the future. It's not an expense. It's more an investment that the town would have been made. We could have done something different here. We could add on to the fire department here, like sleeping quarters or whatever we need here, like a break room for the volunteers. We do need a DPW. We've got, those trucks are sitting outside, and if you've ever done plowing, you have to get in a truck that's been parked outside all night in sub-zero weather. A lot of it's going to be froze up. You have to get machines thawed out and running, and that's going to take time. And these machines are deteriorating sitting outside here year-round. We have no place to put them inside. They don't fit in the DPW building we have now with the plows on. So they're sitting outside. They can't load up with salt, so that takes some time to run over to the county sheds and load the trucks over there. So we do need a DPW building, whether it's over on 164 or it's back here, but we're going to have to either cut trees down back here in the park to make room for a shed. It may be cheaper. It may be cheaper. I don't know. I'm not against one way or another. I'll go whichever direction you people want to do, but the $8 million is a little bit of a fantasy number that I don't know where that came from. We never discussed that in a budget meeting here on buying that land. We bought the land for the price.
Two other real quick things. And Mike, if you go and check the record, the first vote on the Hofstetter property, you voted for it. And I know you changed your mind on that, and that's fine, and I respect that. So you voted for it the first time. The other thing that I would point out to people, and this will be for days going forward, but some suggestions had been, and this town board hired Angus Young out of Janesville back in 2017. We paid between $12,000 and $13,000 for them to prepare preliminary plans here for addition of sleeping quarters for the fire station, expanding some of the Bay Area so we can get a larger engine that we're contemplating replacement that won't fit in the Bay Area, Public Works area and back. Supervisor Durst, Supervisor Wolf, and I met many times over with the architect during the spring and summer of 2017. The town board was completely on board with that, and for any of you, not this number, but came to the 2017 meeting of this kind with the approval of the budget, the capital plan included putting the fire station addition on for sleeping quarters for a little over $1 million. That was approved by the electorate. The town board was fully beyond it. It was in the budget. December 27th, 2017, the town board changed its mind, and the other 4 board members voted against hiring the architect to move ahead with that project. I voted for it because I believed then, and I still believe, that we need sleeping quarters for the fire department to improve response time and attract people. So we basically have been at a stalemate on that issue ever since. There's some suggestion that we ought to now proceed with that plan that was shelved 2 years ago, and that's worthy of consideration. But I'll point one thing out to you. The state building code will not allow us to build a building larger than 12,000 square feet in area. This gets a little technical.
Yeah.
But
Excuse
unless
me,
it's
Mr. Chairman,
sprinklered
if
with
we could move it
firewalls.
along.
No, let me finish it because I'm explaining my part of it.
Well, we're talking about sprinkler systems in
No,
buildings that aren't
no,
built.
we're talking about the vision for it, so just allow me to finish. It'll go quickly, but sprinkler system will be
Is there a motion to
required to
adjourn
do
by
that.
anybody in the audience?
Just before we do that, since you called me out, I wanted to be clear that my vote was to authorize entertaining an offer from the seller. When I found out the ridiculous price and what we would have to go to purchase, I have consistently voted against this situation every time. My sole positive vote was to entertain them to give us a price, period.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a motion and a second, Mr. Chairman.
All right, is there a
Call the
motion to
vote.
adjourn? I'm going to ask, is there a motion to adjourn? Town board meeting, and a second? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Do we need to go downstairs to ask that? All right, we'll move on. All right, thank you. No. I don't know. We're going to go ahead. No, let's get through this.
Jim was, and then the chairman clarified that Mike voted one time, and then Mike clarified his vote. So I don't know which discussion you heard.
I know you guys are going to do another meeting. Do you guys have a rough count of how many people are coming? I'm not.
I don't. Many, I don't. Yes?
You allowed the people to talk.
Yes. Yes.
The board should do the same for the people who hear. That's not right. It was right that you were cut off. You should have been able to finish it, whether you were on point or not. Let's be fair, and if we get somebody calling for a reason.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate that. I mean,
Going down the stairs, he's absolutely right. We had to get those people. What's going to be different than the 150 that were up here? No.
I understand that. And I appreciate your comments. I mean, I think this is a good exercise in democracy. I do. And I think for the most part, people were respectful. Yes, very good.
I kind of wonder because it was only his name on it this time, you know, for the Veterans Day thing. So that's good. Oh, yeah, she will. Yeah, yeah. Is, what's his name, still at that office? May, yeah. When I left, he was. Oh, I didn't know.
Just making sure you
The
didn't have
only
any
reason
trouble.
I asked is because our Jeff
I
has
dropped you
him
off.
instead of Dan. John has.
Of course I was.
And Jeff is out there somewhere that I haven't figured out yet. And so I'm never sure where he's meeting with him. Yeah, I do too. Yeah, and he's a Michigan fan, so I'll stop by him. Well, that's good. I hope you enjoy your job. Tell what you're squeeze through. Did you see somebody go out that way? Oh,
It's my understanding as soon as the supervisors are all at the table, we're going to conclude with the last meeting. So if everyone else would please have take their seats.
Here he comes.
And the supervisors come to the table.
All right. We're going to call to order the special town board meeting number 2, November 5th, 2019 at 9:44 p.m. Roll call, please.
Chairman Fisher.
Aye. Here.
Supervisor Durr.
Here.
Supervisor Stigler.
Here.
Supervisor Radke. Here. Supervisor German.
Aye. Here. Getting me confused now tonight.
Okay.
It's getting late.
Open meeting law compliance check. The notice was posted on the 3 town public notice boards, the town website, published in the Waukesha Freeman, and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on November 4th, 2019. Is that an accurate statement?
I concur.
Okay. Discussion, possible action on the 2020 capital budget, in as much as the land purchase was not approved. I'm assuming we're going to strip that out of the proposed budget.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I looked at the numbers and reflected upon the past couple of hours, and I would like to propose removing $347,800 from the general government capital outlay fund and allocating that evenly between the public safety capital outlay and the public works capital outlay. And that would bring the public safety capital outlay line item to $363,900. And it would bring the public works capital outlay line item to $563,900. And then I would propose that the capital plan be brought back at the November 14th meeting for proper allocation of that money.
Okay. Is
And
there
I
a
so
second to
move.
the motion?
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, 2020 general budget. Is there a motion with regard to the 2020 general budget? No. I will then move to approve the 2020 general budget as published in the notice of public hearing for the proposed operating budget, and I so move.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The 2020 fire inspection budget. Is there action on that?
I'll make a motion that we accept the fire inspection budget as proposed.
Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Discussion. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. And the 2020 debt service budget.
I'll make a motion we approve the 2020 debt service budget as proposed.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That passes unanimously. And then a motion for adjournment would be in order.
I'll make a motion we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.